Hello fellow gaijins, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about habits that I picked up while living in Japan for a few months that I just can't seem to get rid of. I think in general, if you go into a country with a totally different culture and just different ways of living, you start picking up things that are essential to being polite or just to being socially accepted in that country. And then when you come back to your own country, you notice that those things are kind of useless here, but you still do them because they kind of became a habit. I've had the idea for this video like a week ago, and for the past week I've been looking at my own actions and thinking about like, what things have I picked up from Japan and why am I still doing them? And today I want to talk about my findings. I have a part-time job that I do besides university and besides YouTube, where I sell stuff. If you go into any store in Japan and buy something, the employee has a very distinct way of giving you money back. The way they do it is they take the money with two hands and they give it to you like this. Now I don't have any money, so I use this thing to show you, but why are we still here? In general, you get your money back with both hands. In other countries, I don't think this is the case. Like, you usually just get your money like, here's your money, here's your coins. Like, they don't think about how they give the money back. But in Japan, it's a very respectful gesture if you take both hands to give something to a person. For example, if you give a card, like with your like workplace and email and stuff like that, I don't know what you call it, but just a card to any person, you give it with both hands. A business card, yeah, now I remembered. If you give your business card to anybody, you use both hands, which is the most respectful way to do it. And the same is the case for money. And now when I work in my part-time job, I do the same thing, like I use both hands. And before I didn't do that, but since I've come back from Japan, I started doing this subconsciously, and I've noticed in the past week that I've been doing this all the time and I didn't really think about it, like it's totally natural for me. But yeah, just a very strange habit that I feel like is unnecessary here, but in Japan it's very, very important. Another thing that I've noticed I've stopped doing is blowing my nose when people are around. In Japan, blowing your nose when people are around is considered kind of rude. So I've trained myself to not do it in front of people, like take a tissue and then blow my nose when it's running or something, when I'm sick. So I just go out of the room or I turn away, and I've never done this before, but since I've come back from Japan, I started doing this. And people sometimes ask me like, why don't you just do it in front of me? And I'm like, I don't know, it's a habit. Can't change it. I mean, I can't change it, but I'd rather not, because then I go to Japan and I do it there and then people are like, oh, 何してるのこの人? Yeah, I'm joking, but still. Japanese people have a few very, very distinct gestures that they do only in Japan. For example, when you talk about yourself, or if you want to know if somebody talks about you, you always point to your nose. Like, I don't think other countries do this. Let me know if your country does it in the comments below. I'd love to hear about your countries as well and things that you do there, which are kind of special and is not very widespread in the rest of the world, so please let me know. But in general, in Japan, things like pointing at yourself, or if you go through crowds, you kind of like do this. Especially men do this, I don't know, or like elder men. You often see salary men do this, but they like take one hand and they're like, すみません, すみません. And they like go like this and they like show where they're going. And people generally tend to make space when they see a man that does this. Women also do this, I think, but you see salary men doing this quite often. I don't know why, but yeah, in general, if you're in Japan, like 50% of the people are salary men anyway. So if you're in a big, like populated street, you see many people with salary men attire. But in general, it's a very, very common gesture, and I do this as well when I'm in like a very crowded place. I do this thing and I'm like, why am I doing this? Nobody understands me anyway. But I tend to do it anyway because, yeah, it's just a habit. Usually when you go upstairs or you walk downstairs, you usually have like a system in your country. Is it left where you stand and right where you walk? Or is it right where you stand and left where you walk, right? Here in Switzerland, it's you stand on the right side and you walk on the left. In Fukuoka anyway, you stand on the left and you walk on the right. When I say stand and walk up the stairs, I mean like escalators, where they like bring you up automatically. I think they're called escalators, right? Not really sure though. I'm really curious how it is in other countries, so please leave a comment below and tell me how it is in your countries. When I came back from Japan, it was really funny when I just stood on the left side and somebody from behind me just was like, please, can you go to the right? I want to walk. And I was like, oh shit. I was so used to standing on the left that without noticing, I would just stand on the left side and people would kind of get annoyed with me. But I guess people that are in a hurry or need to catch their train or something really get annoyed with me, so I'd rather stand on the right if I can. In English, when you forget what you want to say or you just have to think about it for a second, you'd usually just do this sound like things like these. Now in Japan, they don't do this. They have special like words for this, so they say ano and eto. If they need to take a break mid-sentence, they usually just go like ano or eto, something like that, right? And it was really funny that when I came back, I just couldn't stop doing this for like 2 or 3 months. Like every time in the mid of a sentence, I sometimes just slipped an ano in there. And it's really, really strange if you do this in German, Romanian, English, or any other language, because it's just not, it doesn't fit in. Like if you're just saying something and then there's like an ano in between, it just feels really strange. And it got really awkward sometimes when I was like talking and then like ano, and people would look at me like, what does that mean? And it then usually just gets really awkward. Now it just happens like twice a month, but when I came back, it was really, really bad. And I did this in like every second sentence, and it was really strange for people around me. The public transport in Japan is always quiet. People in Japan are generally quieter than in other countries, but especially the public transport is like a place where you have to be quiet because people sleep or are just overworked and just need their quiet time. Here, on the other hand, in Western countries, the people kind of tend to get loud when they're in groups. So when there's a big group of teens, for example, in a public transport like a tramway or a train, they tend to get really loud. And for me, who got really, really used to a quiet environment while sitting in a train, for example, it is sometimes really annoying when people get really, really loud. Now, before I went to Japan, I didn't notice this at all. Like, it was totally normal for me. And I, as a teen, was sometimes loud as well. I mean, it's just part of the culture here. Like, talking is okay. But after coming back, I really started to notice like how loud people can be sometimes. And it's always really interesting to see the contrast in between like a country like Japan, who has really different culture if you compare it with like this Western culture that we have here. Another thing that I really started to notice and also appreciate are the public trash bins around here, and also like paper in the bathrooms. In Japan, it's very common to have a towel with you when you go into a bathroom because they often don't have any paper or just tissues to dry off your hands after washing them. Here, on the other hand, we have this everywhere, anywhere you go. We have some way of drying off your hands, which is really, really, really comfortable for me because I don't like having my hands like wet and then having to like dry them on my clothes. And I, as a foreigner, when I was there, I never really had a towel with me because I just didn't think about it. I got used to it after some time, but the first 4 months or something, I just never had one. And it was kind of annoying having to always dry off my hands on my clothes, or just having like them like wet like this and have to shake them all the time. Especially during winter when it was really cold outside, it was not a good feeling going out of a bathroom with wet hands. Here in Switzerland, we have trash bins every 20 or 30 meters. Like, we have trash bins everywhere. Anywhere you go, you'll find one. We can only do this because we have a really, really good system where people work for like companies that take those trash bins and then bring them somewhere and burn them there. I'm not really sure how the whole thing works, but we have trash men and they do amazing work here. So Switzerland is very clean because of that. In Japan, which is also a very clean country, they don't have trash bins. Like, it's very normal there to take your trash home with you when you have any trash with you. So you just put it in your pocket or in your backpack, for example, and then you take it home and then sort it there, right? Because in Japan, everything is sorted. Here we also have the sorting system, and we have like a trash bin, a big one with the different sortings, or just the different kinds of trash that we produce, right? When I came back, I really started to appreciate those trash bins because I'm a person that always like goes and buys something somewhere. Like, especially in Japan, it's very, very convenient to buy stuff. So there are konbinis anywhere you go. So you buy something and then you walk and eat it, and then you just don't have a trash bin to throw it away. The only place where you can actually find a trash bin are konbinis itself. But it's usually not very socially acceptable if you just take your trash from somewhere else and then throw it in a kombini trash, because you would have to go inside, throw it, and then go out. And people there see this. Sometimes they tell you like, don't do this. So public trash bins are almost non-existent there. And it just, as a foreigner, it's really strange if you have to take home your, especially as somebody who comes from a country where it's very well regulated to have like trash and throwing it away anywhere you want because there are trash bins, right? So it was really strange for me when I was there, and when I came back, it was a really relieving feeling to like buy something and then throw away the trash without having to think about it. These were the few actions, habits, and just things I noticed about myself that changed after coming back from Japan, and it really also changed my perception about cultures and how they can change you as a person. Like when you come back from a different culture than your own, you will perceive your own culture in a different way. It feels really strange, especially for like 2 months in the beginning. It's something really surreal, and it really almost feels like a reverse culture shock, because if you go to Japan, you definitely will have some sort of culture shock, but when you come back, you also kind of have one, and it's really strange. The longer you are away, the stronger this feeling will grow. I'm really wondering about if any of you guys have similar experiences, and if you did, please leave a comment. I want to read as many as possible because this is just my experience and how I felt about it, but if other people had different or similar experiences, it would be really interesting to read about it. If you want to support this channel and also me, you can do this in 3 different ways. One is you can just like the video, you can subscribe if you feel like you are interested in the stuff I do and you want to hear about Japan and also learn Japanese. By the way, I will link here or here, I'm not sure on which side, but I will link an annotation with the playlist for the Japanese language course that I'm doing on this channel. It starts at a total beginner level, so if you're interested and you want to study some Japanese, click on the annotation wherever it is. The third point would be watching the ads. As you might have noticed, I've started having ads on my videos because the channel got monetized like 2 weeks ago, and it's really interesting to see those like cents going up every day, like 20 cents, 20 cents. It's really interesting, and I'm really happy to actually make any money at all with these videos because I really enjoy making them, but it kind of takes time. So actually getting a little bit of money out of it really feels like an achievement, even though it's not too much. It really motivates me to make more videos, and maybe someday I will be able to do this as my part-time job and stop doing my other part-time job, which is really cool, but also takes a lot of my time, which I could invest much better into making videos and, you know, growing this channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Mata ne. Oh, by the way, join the Discord. There is a link in the description below.